to begin with you, Farhana. Can you define the Internet of Things and describe it?
So, if I have to go a little geeky and I'll do a geeky and then I'll do a normal. So, Internet of Things has got three broad components. There is an aspect of collecting data. So, in some form and shape you collect data. There's an aspect of communicating the data, and there's an aspect of analyzing the data. So, bring it down to whatever English you want, it comes down to that. But that's not the way I describe IoT. The way I describe it is when I was explaining this to my mom when I got this job and she was like asking me, what exactly are you going to do? I understood what you did at IBM. I don't understand what you're going to do here. So I explained her the whole concept, and then she said, oh, you're giving the meter a voice. So she said in Urdu, Zabaan de raho aap kisi cheez ko. And that's exactly what Internet of Things is. It's about giving an inanimate object a voice, hearing to what it's saying, and taking actions on it. And that's Internet of Things.
What would you like to add to that, Rishi?
Yeah, so I used to head the digital enterprise service business of Tech Mahindra. And in 2010, my CEO asked me to start working on IoT. And that time the word was M2M rather than IoT. So, sorry. I took an appointment from Anand. And I said, Anand, if you won't allow me to experiment 2x, so I need to experiment. You are the machine guys, automotive. So at that time we had acquired Veva. And some work was going on, and there Vodafone and us worked together. So basically, there were 136 sensors that were put into that car. Okay, it's a battery-driven electric car. And all the data used to come to a device where Vodafone used to bring that device to my platform. Okay. And we used to do some kind of analysis, so the car used to send a message, you left me open, please close me. And we used to click, and the car used to get closed. Switch on the AC, switch off the AC, everything. It was looking like a jadoo happening. But there are 3 points which I really want to say what Internet of Things means. First, it was defining an IT industry with the communication industry and the manufacturing industry. We had to 3 work together to create a new solution, which is called Internet of Things. Then what happened, your technology is combining, you're combining the hardware and software and connectivity. But nobody was buying that car. We launched it on India Gate and the ministers came and everybody came. But because it's a 7.5 lakh rupee car and it's a small car which can drive only 100 kilometers, so nobody was buying it. So we were sitting in a room and saying, we created a technology model, but nobody is buying it. So we said, what is the biggest prize in that car? And that was a battery. I said, okay, get it leased. So like everybody pays for their petrol or diesel, we said we'll sell this battery as a service. So we started charging 5,000 rupees or 3,000 rupees per battery. And after 5 years, the battery will be mine and I'll give you a new battery. So we could sell some cars. So first is the technology where we have industries, manufacturers of hardware, connectivity providers and SI combining hands together. Second is the technology where sensors, data, everything is getting collected. The third is a business model where you have started selling a car as a service. And the fourth thing which was equally important, I'm sure you all must have seen that small car. One day a lady in Jaipur got stuck because the small tire of that small car got stuck in a pit. So all the data was coming to my call center agent. And I keep on remembering this story every time, and there was no script for him that what will happen because he could see the tire moving, not the car. Okay? So all the data is providing, and what they are saying that the car is not moving, but the tire is moving. So that intelligent boy called up that lady and said, ma'am, I was stuck. I'm getting some different kind of data. She said, yes, I'm stuck. And then within 45 minutes, that man could arrange a help. And that's the fourth type to go, is the customer service.
Right.
Okay. So from technology, industries, to a different kind of business model, to a new way of you can do the customer management. And that's what Internet of Things means.
Great. So, very good answers. If I was to contextualize this, Internet was right now mostly for people. So, videos, information, messages, games, commerce, mostly for people. Now, you are saying that the things will have sensors.
Yeah.
They will have intelligence. They will have connectivity. They will communicate and collaborate with each other. So it will be a completely new Sega in the life of internet. So for example, this phone is of course IoT enabled. It has a lot of sensors. It has a sensor for how much light is there, whether I'm moving or not, whether it is like this or like this, whether it is close to my ears or to my cheek. So similarly, you have placed sensors in many, many things. So they will sense, communicate, touch, collaborate and control. Right? Great. So can you give me some examples, Farhana, of Internet of Things so that it is clear to all of us?
So one great example which Rishi said, continuing the same example of Reva, let's take, if you remember the Honda Connect ad which came out, the biggest, the Honda, so how many of you know the Honda Connect ad which came on TV, the connected car? Any show of hands?
So there is a show of hands.
Yeah, a couple of them. So Honda Connect, Honda launched an aftermarket solution for its car where you put like a dongle in the car just below the steering wheel and you could actually read basic data. So by putting that, it's called an OBD device which you put it like a dongle and it gives out basic data of saying where is your car, so location of where the car is, how have you been driving, what is the health of the car, fuel level kya hai, battery kya hai, those kind of stuff. Now how does it help us like as a normal, how did they add or how did they position the ad? The positioning of the ad was this father waiting at home, the daughter is driving and he wants to track where she is. It's late night, it's 2 o'clock at night and he's worried and she's driving and he knows where she is and she gets stuck. So he knows where she's stuck and then he can call for an emergency service and she can call for an emergency service. So the ability to track a car, to know your family of where they are. How many times we call up home to ask बच्चों को स्कूल से लाया कि नहीं ड्राइवर कहाँ पे पहुंचे हो so things like that, something as basic as that. That's a car example, continuing the whole car. But the other example which I really liked was something in Spain Vodafone did with Red Cross and Lively. Lively is a company which deals with Alzheimer patients. They give medication on Alzheimer's patients. They do wearables. The biggest problem in the Western world, and now sadly it's coming to our country also, is that a lot of senior citizens or parents stay alone. The children don't stay with your parents, right? And there was this case, and they have a lot of elderly people who are staying all by themselves. Most of them suffer from Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or some other disability. So this whole thing, what they did was, and what happens is, naturally, you either put in a home or you put constricted in a house, and you make them lose their independence, their entire the arrogance is the wrong word, but the way they grew up, their independence, the whole dignity in which they led their life. Suddenly, at the end of their life, they are restricted to being all by themselves or in a home. Restricted movement. So what they came up with was a device which is like a small belt which is chipped on the belt or one is a wearable. And along with Red Cross, they arranged for this whole thing that if the person goes beyond a boundary, so they define the geofence, and if you cross that boundary, your caregiver, wherever the person is, and 5 other people will get an alert. So if the person, and typically that happens, they go beyond a boundary and then they forget and then they're lost. Right? So then you get an alert and all you need to do is press the button and that location will say that you're lost and you need someone to come and pick you up. So that whole aspect of giving independence or freedom back to people who have left all their life with dignity is another very good example of how IoT touches, because you assume IoT to be industrial, you assume IoT to be technology, you don't assume how human that element can be.
You know how I so deeply resonate with you on this. My parents, especially my mother, who has had a hip fracture, is in that position now, 84 years of age. And what you're saying was interesting, so interesting to me, because I know that there are companies working on gait patterns, on checking the steadiness of walk, and how that wearable can communicate and alert a healthcare worker that your patient is about to fall.
Exactly.
I know that my mother misses medications many a times. And every time a healthcare worker is required to tell her, and then sometimes he also forgets. But there are wearables which will tell you whatever you have to ingest or inject to medical devices, and so that the missed medicine does not lead to a catastrophe. And so this kind of stuff, when I was getting to know, I also came across a term called hikikimori. Hikikimori is a Japanese term for a category of people who want to socially seclude themselves and interact with the society only through technology. Because social interaction causes stress, some people can't cope with it, they want to interact with the society only through technology. And this tribe is growing, 2 million people already, and most of them are elderly, because elderly people find it even difficult to maintain friendships. So, and suppose I miss a medication, my mother misses a medication, it is bad for her, it is bad for the industry also. The industry can have new revenues of billions of dollars if those medicines are not missed. I was also reading about robotic pets. The Sony Aibo launched a pet, which was a small dog, robotic, and people developed a lot of affinity for these pets, close to affections. Even they had funeral rites when they could not be repaired anymore, and they really mourned their demise. Why? Because these machines were giving them some kind of emotional succor. In spite of the fact that they were impersonal, there was predictability and they were non-discriminatory. Machines don't discriminate, they don't say young or old or rich or poor. So I feel this is a really empathetic and soft area which you have touched, and I really appreciate this contribution of IoT.
So I think just from a robotic, I just remember during the Mobile World Congress, we showed this solution in Europe. So in Netherlands, children who go through life-threatening diseases like cancer or something, they are mostly in these hospices where they can't go to school, they go through long treatments, they miss periods of time for school. They get lonely, especially teenage kids or the preteen, they get lonely, and their ability to want to live kind of goes down. So the doctor, the hospital, cancer hospital, is a very simple solution, nothing so exactly the same. They had a small robot. Everyone has a robot, right? They put a camera in the robot, not new. They put sensor and voice and microphone in the robot. And the robot became this person's persona. So this generation of kids who was used to playing games and Xboxes and who are used to this persona, for them this is just another persona, and that persona went to school for them, went to games for them, went out with friends with them, and they could communicate. So they would, through the video, the friends could, it was like FaceTiming, but in a persona they wanted to choose. And that loneliness aspect of these children who are going through really life-threatening diseases and going through treatment kind of went down. And doctors, and I'm not remembering the exact metric now, but doctors saw a phenomenal improvement in their treatment because they were happier now.
Yeah, fantastic. Coming to industrial IIoT, because there are several manufacturers also here, what would you like to talk about? How would you like to define industrial IoT and some examples, please?
So, when the sensors and everything start working in the industry, so how can you have a connected factory? How can you get data which can predict and you can prevent certain things? How can you get analytics? All the information in one go on your mobile is what can you think of industrial IoT. There is a term called Industry 4.0, which is a German way of talking about how the version 4 or the next 4th generation of things are coming. And they have tried to create a lot of data around and a lot of ways around how the industry can move to IoT. But in India, and I'm specifically trying to talk about India, but the main reason for this Industry 4.0 industrial IoT in Western world is because of the high cost of labor, and the aging population. Which both of them are not in our country. We have a low cost of labor and we have a younger generation. So government here, the people want more jobs, and we are trying to create an environment where we are trying to make the cost high, the starting cost will be high, and then we are trying to come up with a plan which is going to reduce the jobs. So both of them are hindrance in getting things done. And then, please don't mind, but the Lalajis of all factories are not going to contribute to any new technology unless it's going to help them in generating more revenue or getting more profits. That's the point. So the creation of the return on investment, the creation of a business case becomes a much bigger challenge in countries like ours, where the challenges are not labor cost, nor the availability of skilled labor. But right now, how to improve the quality and how to create a productivity higher and how to get the operational efficiencies are the kind of use cases that are forcing these factories to come out with a implementation of IoT into their factory. One very Maruti Manesar plant is completely robotic. Okay. And they created those kind of automation and work, and what will it lead to the people and what is it do is something which we can separately talk about. But we have implemented an industrial IoT solution. And that the trigger of that solution was, I was telling this outside. It works on 24/7 shifts. If there is a factory in Baddi, I am not authorized to tell the name. And at a time in the morning at around 4 a.m. the shift changes. And one person didn't reach home. At around 8 a.m., 9 a.m. there was first started, and they found that it was a large, huge factory. That person was lying near and he was dead. And that was the start of how can we track people for security. And from starting with people who are working where and where they have gone out or not, so that the HR can get it, to each and every machine and PLCs, getting all the data coming out of this machine, seeing where the raw material is, how much is produced, where it has moved, how it is moved out. You have all the data, and you are ready to take decisions on the correct data and the quality data. So how can you prevent? How can you predict? How can you take better decisions? How can you manage things better? Which will bring you the efficiency gains, which will definitely improve your overall productivity and profitability. And that's how we create the business cases, and we have already implemented. And many of the manufacturing plants, including those which are manufacturing chips and all those kind of things, they have their large factories and they are implementing and going towards it. And it has many benefits.
So what you're saying is, just to contextualize, that there is a process efficiency which IoT will bring.
Yeah.
There is predictive maintenance it will bring, which is kind of giving us early alarms for any wear out on machines, so that we can take timely action, which is usually more efficient and cost effective. And then there is from the floor to the store, a complete systems orientation or systems view, which IoT gives us to make sure that everything happens in the least possible time and with greatest efficiency. Not only of the machine but of humans also. Great, fantastic. So, coming to the next consumer, a couple of consumer cases, Farhana. You have done something connected with drones also in iPhone.
We haven't. Like in the sense, it was done by Amazon when they were trying to try out drones, and in New Zealand they wanted. So Amazon is building this whole warehouse in the cloud, literally in the cloud, kind of a remote warehouse.
Cloud, as you know, is a group of data warehouses.
It's like a virtual warehouse they wanted to create. So in the whole aspect, what they wanted was, when iPhone 7 was launched, they actually did the first delivery with a drone. So there was, in New Zealand, there was no delivery boy involved, there was nothing. So it was all automated. So the drone, there was a robot, it was totally IoT driven. There was a robot you picked up from the warehouse, gave it to the drone came and delivered on your doorstep. So that was the trial by them before they launched, and now they're actually trying to recreate the model. But coming back to the industrial point, I wanted to make a point which Rishi touched in the beginning. Industrial IoT can actually give you an alternative business model. Typically, manufacturing companies are the whole case of Reva giving battery as a service, right? Typically, you buy a car and you forgotten about for the next 5 years. But now because Reva is the battery is a service, you're connected with the customer and you have relationship with the customer. Like all the manufacturing companies are not customer companies. They're not considered a bank or a telco would be considered as a consumer friendly company, right? Manufacturing companies aren't. This is an alternative source of revenue that gets generated. Seat, Michelin Tire does it globally. Seat is trying to do it in India. They're trying to offer tire as a service.
Yeah.
So don't pay me for the tires. Pay me as much as you use the tire. So these big truck companies keep a lot of tires. That's a cost for them. That's an inventory cost. Now the tires, they don't have to pay for everything that's kept. Only when the tire is used, you will pay money to the tire company.
Wow.
The other aspect tire companies are now planning to promise, and globally they do that already. And in India, I can't tell which one is going to launch, but they're going to do soon. Is they'll tell you that pay me only, they're promising a percentage of reduction in reduction of fuel costs. So bringing about fuel efficiency. And they say you pay me only if you meet that outcome. So that's a commitment they're giving to their customers now, and that's possible due to Internet of Things. And I'll tell you how it's possible. Tire pressure management, everyone understands that how the pressure of the tire is, that much fuel efficiency is linked, right? So they have put sensors across the thread of the tire. And they have a small device which, along with the tires, you have to fit in your vehicle. And as and when the pressure goes below a certain level, it sends out an alert to order for new tires. And that's how they maintain that outcome of the tire pressure. So industrial IoT is obviously about predictive maintenance and improving productivity, but more importantly, it's about bringing the service element which a traditional industrial or manufacturing company could never have.
Yeah, so I think this tire example is very good, where you can also predict or prevent a blowout, which can cause a huge damage. Picking up on this, Rishi, if you can tell us, does the insurance industry also face a strong likelihood of change on the same lines that Farhana has said?
So it's not will. We are already implementing these IoT solutions with majority of the insurance companies in India.
Wow, okay.
So and the partnership is between the insurance companies and the financiers. So they all have different kind of use case. Because of Internet of Things, the first thing is the theft. So we are able to predict, stop theft, which is one of the use cases for which the insurance companies have to pay. The second is the fraud claims. There's a reduction. We are able to, recreate an accident. So if a company said, on the right hand side somebody hit me, and that's what has happened, we can recreate the sensors put into that vehicle, so that you can predict that this is right or wrong. So that the claim efficiency can improve, the fraud claims can be removed. So these insurance companies, these two are the use cases which have started now. The insurance regulators, they are planning to allow the usage with insurance. So how good you are a driver. So your premium, it has started in the Western world, but in India it is still not started because of the IRDA regulations. So the ones which will be allowed, you will be paying your insurance premium as per the way you are a good driver or a bad driver. It will not be, okay, this is the discount.
Wow.
And that's how the data that is coming out. With the amount of data that is coming out, transportation department, the manufacturer of the cars and the trucks, everybody will get benefit. One of the use cases I never thought of, which turned out to be a use case, was, when people are driving, there are very few drivers. The driver community is less. So you can't check them out if they do something wrong. But you can get a driver behavior. How was the driver driving? And depending upon that, the risk department of one of the insurance companies, they give them trainings and ensure that they won't do that mistake again. Okay, well, fantastic. So there are cases where you are using it. The one thing before I end, financiers, they can check the NPA. Okay, if the truck whom they have financed has not moved for a month or maybe 10 days, that means this man won't be able to pay the EMI.
Okay. No, I think what I like the most, of course, it's only a good point. What I like the most is that if I am a good driver, there can be a sensor on my car
Yeah.
which monitors how I drive so that I can validate the fact that I'm a good driver and which will bring down my insurance premium. It is extremely equitable and just.
Yeah.
So far it has just been blanket, slabs for everybody. That's really very good. About healthcare and medical devices, what would you like to say?
So one correlation with insurance to healthcare I'll give. A lot of the insurance aspect that we see, we only focus on general insurance, the motor insurance, right? We are now talking, now if you see, the insurance are coming up with medical specific problems. So it's not no longer a health insurance or a life insurance, it's about if cardiac disease insurance and a lot of diabetes, a lot of these companies. What's happening is they are working on the same metrics which a car manufacturer and car insurance used to work earlier, saying that if you wear a Fitbit, I will reduce your insurance. If you are a heart patient, then and you have a pacemaker which gives out data of how your heart is functioning, and you've taken a cardiac insurance package, your insurance will get lower or your ability to get insurance will get better. So the whole aspect of insurance is coming, but they're working here with medical device workers and equipment manufacturers to build in that entire, basically, for lack of a better word, is managing their risk one and provide a better lifestyle. Like if you see, India has the largest amount of diabetic patients. More and more pharma companies, insurance companies are pushing for the whole aspect of a fitter life. Where available in fitter life. You're having Diabetic Care, which is a diabetes machine which you can measure your sugar at home. The information goes to a set of clinical physicians who see the results and tell whether your diet is something which is causing sugar or not causing sugar, your medication has to be changed, and then you can have that information. So something as basic as healthy living, being fit, basic management of your sugar, to a pacemaker having a sensor which tells if your pacemaker is going to stop working, and you having an AED device which tells in case of an emergency. So medical devices are the most common use of IoT. Actually, healthcare globally has the most active use in the healthcare industry. That's one. The second one, which you yourself mentioned about the medicine monitoring, right? So if you have a wearable which tells you if you have not taken your medicine, or if you have an app which tells you an alert that your medicine is due, have you taken your medicine? The third more important thing is patient records. In India, the biggest challenge you have is you don't have a structured patient record monitoring system. And when you're moving from one hospital to another, you're taking this bulk of these reports and you don't even have the history. You will go through the doctors again. And that's one thing I think government is also pushing to have a more integrated patient record monitoring system which can help you transfer information from one doctor to another, get better treatments. So I think there's a lot of access. Simple, and there are obviously a host of other access, but a lot of other normal use cases which IoT can help in the healthcare space.
Also, the nurses, they are about
hospital management.
Hospital
Yes.
management. 21 minutes every nurse, they say, spends on just finding the right equipment in every shift. If that time is saved by the equipment itself signaling, I am here, okay, you need me. And also bed sensors. I'm sure that there is already some hospital CEO here. It is also said that the beds they get vacated, but unless you have a bed sensor which tells you that it is open, it may take 3 to 4 hours before that bed is realized as vacant by those people who are bringing in the patients. So, and I'm also told that if just in healthcare, if 1% inefficiency is reduced, the saving is $60 billion per annum. So, of course, India, the saving will be less, but with this Ayushman Bharat coming in, my hospital colleagues want to save every little penny. Okay, so coming to urban development. What is your view on urban development, Rishi? Where does IoT really change the game?
I am part of the Smart City Councils and I keep on working with the urban development.
So the smart city is a local government which uses IT to improve the quality of life of its citizens.
So basically, in the framework which was defined for the making things smart and making the life happier, how can you do governance using ICT? There's around 80 plus solutions identified in that framework which can be implemented. But the main concept for the urban development body to make it a smarter place for making the life of citizens happy is to have a centralized command and control center. You have different kind of devices put in, they are giving different kind of data and how that data can be utilized for different departments or different things. And I keep on giving this example, there's this camera that has been put by say police department. We all know our cities, we have urban development body, we have a transportation department, we have water department, we have electricity department and we have police. Everybody has their own jobs. But imagine a camera, he doesn't know what I'm doing. His job or the camera's job is to collect the picture and send that picture. If that picture shows that there is a theft happening, or there is a traffic jam, or there is a garbage on the street, or there is an illegal occupation, all 4 data can go to 4 different departments. Okay. One is going to go to the police for traffic management and for transportation or any kind of robbery happening. The other can go to the urban development body for any garbage and occupation. Okay, so there are different departments. So how to have a centralized command and control center? So a different level of data coming can give you different kind of triggers and make the life happy for us. Whether it is the utility meters, whether it is the any kind of the transportation and also the traffic can be managed. So if I would have received a mail or a text on my mobile that if you are supposed to catch an airport flight, you must get down at Shivaji Stadium and take an aerospace in that metro rather than coming by a bus or a car. I will get my flight. I'll get down. Okay, right now I am trying to analyze whether I will be able to reach or not. But if somebody can give me an SMS that Rishi, you will miss your flight. You get out of the car and take a metro, and then they will be able to say you can go to your wow. And that's
personal assistant kind.
It's a personal assistant in life. If somebody can tell me that my nearest way of doing things is take a metro from here and then an auto and then walk. Leave your car somewhere, otherwise you'll get stuck. I do it. And that's how Internet of Things with sensors all over will help. Making the life comfortable for all of us. How that collecting that data. Right now it's more of putting the sensor and creating the infrastructure for smart parking, smart waste management, smart transportation. But when all this data will start coming, how will we utilize this data? How will we be able to take a better policy decision? How will we be able to take better, decisions on overall managing the life of citizens in our city? Is what is going to be a very, very different way than what we are currently doing.
What do you like to add to this?
I think the example I mentioned earlier, right? Mumbai has this whole traffic camera linked to e-challan, linked to your driving plate, right? So if you cross or you speed or you cross the signal and all of it, they'll not stop you. The camera will capture the information wherever the camera is. They're trying to roll it out to the city, and that information gets sent to your registered number, whichever is linked to your driving the car plate. And the whole aspect is enforcing it, because then they start naming and shaming the people to try and get them to pay their fines. But the whole aspect is exactly what he said. You have a camera, but now you don't have to stop a guy, and the poor Havildar doesn't have to run behind him, stop the car, and try and give him a challan and do all this negotiation that keeps happening. Now all of it is connected automatically. The whole concept of green corridors or corridors when there's a transplant happening, and when you've read of these stories of from the heart comes from Pune to Mulund in 45 minutes to an hour. That's because traffic lights are managed in that particular manner. So Internet of Things around urban development of smart cities is about creating citizen governance, citizen security, and a clean country. It's basically around these three things. How are you managing your traffic, your lights, your street lights are on or not, whether they're there or not, whether they're working or not working, which is off, which is not on. How are you monitoring your multimodal transportation, your trains, your buses, your taxis, all of it. That's from citizen governance. Then you have your utilities of water, gas, and aspect, and then the security angle. You have a camera, you have alerts, you have police control system. Now, all that is elements of a smart city. But the other element of smart city which I wanted to add was it's about creating the same infrastructure in places which you don't associate with cities. You associate your cities with Bombay, Delhi, the 6-8 metros and 6-8 larger cities, right? You associate them with cities because of these convenience that we get. How about putting these convenience in this infrastructure which the Internet of Things can afford you to be able to give in cities which are all in smaller towns, which could later become the city. Because when you put all this, you're creating employment, you're creating new avenues of new avenues for revenue. Like you have the e-challan thing. Imagine you have an e-challan in New Raipur. And that's a new avenue over there. You're encouraging the SMB business over there to manufacture the small goods. You're creating industrial corridors.
So the civic offender will also lose its anonymity because now the dustbin also has a sensor and the street light has also sensor. So
They
there will
come
be
together.
So I was remembering that movie. I know what you did last summer. The next month sequel should be the I know what you did last summer. Post supper. Okay. So coming to some issues with it in IoT. First is the employment. You said that employment may take a different complexion. What is your view? Will employment go down? Employment go up? What's your view?
See, the employment as an overall, there will be new kind of employments and new kind of services and new kind of jobs that will get created. So, we have to see how jobs can get created. And I like to take that example of e-rickshaw right now, if you are okay. So I came across a social sector company, which is the name of the company is Innovate, and they created an e-rickshaw, an ordinary e-rickshaw. But they had a different kind of mechanics to it. So it can run 25 kilometers from the city to the village, collect all the vegetables, fruits, fresh fruits from the farmers, come to the city, use it as a transportation device. In the evening, it will convert into a stall, a thela. Okay, so it will collapse to that. And then sell all the vegetables there in the market. And next day morning, the farmers have asked something to be carried out. Take it back and exchange the money. So it will act as an Amazon for the rural area. We saw it. We gave them a vehicle telematics device and a battery management system, just to see where the vehicle is, what is the level of battery left, and all that. Then we thought, if we can put a BP machine, an ECG machine, temperature machine, and the blood sugar. And we train that driver so that he can use it and he can start charging something to the farmers. Okay. So every day this vehicle is going. So everybody say, oh, can you see me this? Can you see me that? There is no need for these farmers to come to the city to get their medical checkups done, show the report to the doctor, and then get advice. Now they have all the data, and now they know whether they should go to the city or not. Third thing which we did was to create a soil sensor on it. So the farmers can put it on the, it's like a small antenna, they get, and they'll know what is the kind of nutrient level. Then we added a water sensor, which will tell what is the quality of water they are using in the well, in the pond, in the wherever. Now we are putting a drone into it. And now this drone will move to the field, take the photographs, and if there is a pest or an insect, they'll take the photograph and then the company will be able to advise which insecticide or pesticide they should be using and what quantity. What I'm telling you is it will be generating many jobs. It will be requiring different kinds of skills. It will be serving the unserved. And this is what we have been able to do. Pilots are already running. Approximately 50 of these e-rickshaws which can collapse are already running in India. Okay. And they are doing a fantastic job. It has generated jobs, but a different type of job. It has forced us to create certain different type of skills. It is using the whole technology it is serving the other side.
Wow.
And it is generating revenue. Because instead of taking an ECG for 250 rupees to come to the city, these guys are charging only 50 rupees. To do a picking and blood sugar, I don't know what is the price, but they are charging much lesser than that. And they're generating money. So it's an ecosystem of creating of work, money, and jobs using this new technology.
So, in the last 5-10 years, we were hooked in the telecommunication wise to Game of Thrones. Now it is going to be Game of Drones. And connecting it with what you said earlier, so the drone will come, or let me say, the professional service courier, his job may go. But you are saying differently abled people will, or differently skilled people, job will go up. For example, if the thing itself becomes a customer, for example, the fridge can order something if the supplies go down. So then we don't have to wait for us to be there when the goods come in. The order can go from the fridge, the goods come in to a drone or a robo, and there is a lock. There is a key to one-time key to your lock which is given to the robo, which enters, but it does not enter the house. There is a delivery room outside. So architecture, new architecture, and in healthcare services also you said. So humans need not apply, will not be the advertisement which will be having the highest tone. The highest tone will be differently skilled humans should apply. Yeah.
I would rather put it in a different manner, sorry.
Go ahead.
You have like 5 billion, NDCP says you have 5 billion devices. So you have an ecosystem which is totally different, which is not there. So if you see, what are the kind of jobs we had? You had engineering, you had mechanics, you had repair services of only the durables that you were there, right? Now you have 5 billion more. So there are this opportunity to skill people in different works from the device ecosystem of how the device is made. We are having conversations of how to make batteries solar so that the e-waste aspect doesn't happen, right? We're talking about how to make the device more durable and make in India. The whole concept of make in India rather than getting a Chinese device in the system. Because we have the highest number of startups in the country, and not all startups are the IITs and the IIMs or the Bangalore. You have startups in these smaller cities where they come up with these really unique solutions. So IoT will actually create more jobs. Yes, the aspect remains that a lot of other menial stuff could move away, but those people could get trained into something totally different. It's just moving up the value chain.
So IoT will bring up efficiency, lower cost, more demand, more jobs.
Yeah, you're moving up the value chain though.
Yeah. So coming quickly to the last 2 points which we can discuss before we take for questions for quickly. Yeah.
Whenever we start thinking about robots, whenever we start thinking about drones giving iPhones and all, I'm not sure whether this will be cost effective for our practical cars. But we should start thinking about how these technologies can be used by us. Right? So there is an autonomous car which has already started running in the United States. When will that come to India? And whether we require it? Whether the infrastructure supports it? But we have already started an autonomous tractor. Okay? And we have already started giving tractor as a service. Okay? By organization. Because it's a defined field, and we can keep that tractor moving from a remote location or autonomous. Okay. So the same technology that is there somewhere else, which we feel can be like a jadoo, or they to hire in India. Isi kya zarurat hogi? How can we utilize for solving our challenges? And what we have enough challenges. And we need these kind of technologies to solve our problems. And how soon can we start thinking, okay, this is the solution, how will I utilize it for my problem?
Beautifully put. In fact, I fully agree with you that we should address real pain points like aspirin, and not go for gimmicky things like vitamins. However, sometimes, as you're saying, that fit a belt can also alert my doctor that I'm about to have a heart attack, correct? So that vitamin becomes an aspirin, which is what you are saying. So we should see, because we have so many real pain points, we should see how these gimmicky technologies also can help us sort out real pain problems.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to give another example.
Go ahead.
And I'm really sorry because it's just
Go ahead.
I was sitting with one of the municipalities commissioner and we were talking about IoT and this and that. He said, मच्छर बहुत हो रहे हैं, चिकनगुनिया डेंगू आने वाला है, क्या आप मुझे बता सकते हो मैं दवा कहाँ दे रहा हूँ? Okay. So for a minute I was really surprised and I was thinking यार क्या जवाब दूँ? So I said give me some time, I'll come back. And then I found that there are students in one of the universities who had created a pest sensor, who were able to diagnose the density of pests in a location, so that they can throw the medicines there and get those pests out. So we spoke to them and they said, oh yes, we can make some changes and we will be in a position to tell you where there are maximum mosquitoes. And we were able to demonstrate it, we were able to do it, and the municipality could send the medicines at that place to kill the mosquitoes. And not how many dengue or chikungunya we could reduce because of it. But that's how
Step
has
step forward, sure. Privacy. Concerns on privacy.
See, privacy is a very big word. Now it depends. In a generation who believes that putting everything they eat on Facebook and Instagram, where does privacy go there, right? So, but the whole aspect again of Indian laws, the way we define privacy or whatever, from a telecom perspective, I'll tell you, like if we have to track, even if they have to track my phone, they ask me for consent. That are you okay with us tracking your phone unless there's an FIR against me, and then that's the only time when they'll track or they'll tell the location, when we know the location of everyone who's connected to our network. So privacy at every level is maintained. But to say that IoT is going to remove privacy and stuff like that in a country of ours, I think a little over-exaggerated.
Over-exaggerated, you're
Some level of regulations are required. No doubt, I totally agree with Farhana. That we are ready to put everything of our family on Facebook. Okay. And we get there and we did this and we did that. And we are very hesitant about these devices knowing about us and somebody knowing that information. But there is no doubt that regulations required. In Europe, there is a recent law that came out, this is called GDPR. And now a similar kind of law is coming in India, which is the Data Protection Act. I think it is in the cabinet parliamentary committee and it will be put into the Lok Sabha. There will be something like TRAI, the Telecom Regulatory Authority. There will be something called Data Protection Authority. Okay, and within the next 1 or 2 years, I can feel that there will be a Data Protection Authority, where I will be made responsible for and asked whether I am happy my data to be shared to somebody else or not. So, I have given my data to an insurance company. Whether this insurance company can share my data with somebody else or they can use my data for something, they will have to ask me. And that will make us as an individual much more powerful about our own data.
And we can monetize it also. Yeah. So what you're saying is some level of privacy management is required, as Farhana also did, where we make sure that maybe it can be handled by holding the data for less time, transmitting it in aggregate and anonymous forms. Because privacy, I agree, it does not cause any very big moral panic. But privacy somewhere is connected with political freedom. And the West is saying that if you will lose your privacy, you will also lose your political freedom, even if you are in a democracy, because of technocracy, etc. Security.
Security is a problem that we need to be aware of. Security has, let's take, we're talking about devices which have intelligence and can communicate and can take action. It's actually something if fallen to the wrong hands. So everything is connected to internet. I'm not trying to scare people, but everything is connected on cloud in internet, right? There is a chance of someone coming and hacking into it. There will be a group of people who try and break it. That's why companies a lot of the technical, strong technology companies, including us, we have ethical hackers who actually try and break the system. And that will be a problem because in a country as spread as us, I believe ESL is just doing 5 million meters across in one part of India. There's some 250 million odd meters that needs to be connected. And then the remotest part of the country, you have a meter there which has a SIM and intelligence. Imagine if someone hacks into that, what all they can do with it. So security at every aspect is required. That doesn't mean it's a scary thought or you don't do automation or bring in digital interventions. It's about knowing at every level from device, the intelligent edge or the device intelligence, the communication layer, the application layer and the analytics about it. What could break the system and how do I fix it?
Right.
And if across the value chain, and that's where IoT becomes an ecosystem play. You can't say one person will do IoT because it cannot be done in the most purest form by doing it one person. That's why we insist so much saying that don't compromise the quality of different elements, especially the device, because that is that's the weakest link to bring in any information, because that's the one which is unmanned. Everything else will be manned at some level.
That reminds me, I read somewhere that when a child is, when a person is a child, he is dependent. When he becomes an adult, he becomes independent. And when he becomes a wise adult, he becomes interdependent. And you are talking about interdependence, that it has to, this security, because so many nodes will open, so many data points will open, it has to have a team of players to make sure that it does not it does not create problems of hacking, etc.
So just to add to that part, like I'm a part of multiple of the IoT working groups in IoT Congress which Rishi heads. In that, security is a separate working group.
Yeah.
Right? And what they're asking us, especially the telcos, to come back, because we've been managing unmanned devices for a very long time. Phones are unmanned devices, right? And the security aspect. So one aspect the European Union has done really well is all the telcos have come together to create a security policy in IoT. India is also building on something. So government is asking for consultation for papers. They're asking the industry to come back. And in the working group, we are trying to give ideas of what could be the possible, how do you ensure that the ecosystem works and works for everyone.
Wow. So I have some more questions, but I will now open the house for questions from the audience.
On security, I want to end by saying, we all know it's vulnerable. We all know there will be threats. We all are working on it. So there are 4 steps which I always say, which are required. First is awareness. Are people aware that by having these kind of devices, they are getting vulnerable and they can be security? That's the awareness. The second part is, how can we create technology which can create a layer on top of these devices, connectivity and IT, so that we can avoid such kind of threats. The third part is on the legal framework. Right now, if an autonomous car hits somebody, where the FIR will be written, on whose against we are going to put the FIR, and what the court will decide. So our legal framework is not set for where we are moving. And there is a need to start thinking about these things because we do not have a legal framework. Okay. And the fourth part, we do not have skills which can manage the legal framework and technology to work together.
So more jobs are coming.
Yes. So more jobs are coming.
In cyber security also.
Yeah.
Go ahead, please. Any questions?
I'm Deepak from Cross. Would like to know a few use cases in the retail industry of IoT.
In
Retail industry.
retail industry.
Something what Adidas does. Adidas does this whole shop. A lot of the use cases are on Adidas does it, Mango does it, a lot of them, Zara does it. It's like this whole footfall conversion aspect, right? So when you're, one of the biggest use cases in retail is when you're, there are two actually, I'll tell you. The first one is when you're walking past a store, how many people have passed and how many of them have come in. So your footfall conversion typically works once you enter the store and then you say, okay, how many came in, how many bought. But when you're walking past your facade, and a lot of it is digital signage. What have you put there, and how much of that is called? Imagine I'm walking past a Crocs store or a Zara store, and something on the facade attracts me, and I stop and I walk, come inside. So a lot of the solutions they're working around is around that. That's one. The other aspect is all about a digital persona. Now and that's the where the boundary lines of shopping from home and outside is changing. So I may buy something, I may search something online, and if I'm searching for a particular brand or a particular thing, and then I don't put it in my shopping cart, and the next time I go to the store, if someone walks up to me and says, "You're searching for something like this, do you want to try it?" Or you had put something in your shopping cart, do you want to try it in the store? So retailers are actually using a lot around customer management, especially the high net worth ones, especially the brands which are a little bit more premium. The more budget or more grocery kind of brands are using it for queue busting and discounting and on the fly discounting. You bought something and then you link it up but more on the point of sale. And in India specifically, FMCG is using a lot with the retailers because more than 80% is unorganized to kind of link it up as a AC Nielsen equivalent of getting tertiary data information. So these are the broad use cases that we are seeing around it. Shelf movement, but that's more for staples. But lifestyle brands, clothes, and all other high street brands is mostly about footfall. A, getting the footfall in. B, converting it into the store. And third is the digital persona of trying. I may not have time to try out an outfit if I am doing that. So Mango has this whole digital mirror which kind of helps you decide how the dress will look on you. And you create a digital persona. What that helps is you keep going back to the same store because you don't want to create multiple digital personas with every store. So you keep going back to a Mango over and over again. So because your shopping time is faster then.
Any other question? Please, sir.
I come from a generation, as you can see from my gray hair. Some people call it the lonely generation. And what's been happening is that the youngsters are so busy looking after themselves. It's a nuclear family system that the older generation is beginning to feel that what about me? Now, something that's in Singapore I found has been a wonderful experience is to bring the human element of it. You have what we call the council houses, something like our TDI houses here. At one time, the parents were beginning to interfere with the privacy of the children. So they said, go live somewhere else, and they were dying of loneliness. So what Singapore did was, they said, okay, you're going to relocate. You young couple stay here, and next door to you will be your parents. They have their privacy. When you want, they can come across. Now, that is something where in India we find that we are using a certain amount of the old time family partner. Am I wrong?
Not at all, sir. Not at all, sir. You are absolutely right. And this is an area which is very close, I think, to all the three people sitting here. We were chatting about it. And we will discuss this in greater detail. There is a lot of options in IoT which give that, particularly that person who has lived well, lived with dignity, has a bank balance, would like to continue living with dignity. How IoT can help is really, really very big in this area. Would like to add?
So two parts of it. One is obviously from our health and the dignity of being able to live your life the way you've always lived your life without having your children or being made felt that you're being dependent on someone to take care of you. So you take care of yourself. You've always done it. You took care of your children, you take care of yourself. So IoT can help you do that. The second aspect which we're seeing a lot is about building a community. So I have friends who have this IoT startup about retired but not out. It's a very cool startup and she's a friend of mine. So the whole aspect is people who have retired above 70 and they want to do something, they want to contribute. But the whole, as you rightly said, the children are busy, they're not that age to go back to corporate life. So how do you bring that community together? And they can do a lot of great things together and give advice, build solutions and stuff. And she has a group of really cool entrepreneurs of that generation who actually are creating an entire solar microgrid kind of stuff. Because all of them were engineers of the traditional way of engineering was done, and they took this, they created literally in the garage this entire solar lamps and everything. And this is all a group of different 70-year-old people who her platform brought together. So, see, one aspect is the human aspect, and that's the changing generation. We really wouldn't want it to change the fabric of how we are in the country, but sadly that's a separate conversation. But the other aspect is the sense of community and belonging. IoT can actually do that by creating a virtual community.
Yeah.
It's no longer आंगन में ही बैठेंगे, but एक virtual world में connect होके रहेंगे.
So IoT also allows the old person to interact with his loved ones when he wants and he can. My mother, 84 years of age, she cannot always take my call when I call. She is tired, and or maybe she's right then being tended to. So she should be able to call me not only through a phone, because even for her to use the phone is sometimes difficult. We have provided her everything, attendance, etc. But she may want to call me at, let us say, 11 o'clock in the night, no attendant that time. So she should be able to, through voice control, be able to make the call, and all that is now possible. We have not been able to train her, that's our misfortune right now, but we are planning to get a, what you call Siri or Amazon Echo.
Alexa.
Alexa.
I think I'll end it over here that I'm a very young person of 80 years old. Okay? And the day I stopped working, and when I say working, it's not for the subject, it's that I can't sit at home and wear pajamas and kurta all day. So I go to work, I dress up, I may do 1/4 of the work I used to do, but at least it keeps me out of the house. Now that I think is the message that people should not learn how to spell the word retired.
Yeah.
It's very wrong.
There is a researcher at Harvard who studies aging. I'll talk to you about it. Beautiful practical ideas he has given. Because I noticed what you're talking about. My father till 83 was working as an advisor to several universities. In the last 2 years that he has now to tend to my ailing mother, I have seen him lose not only physical strength but also vitality. His speech also has become slower, which was not the case when just 2 years back or 1 year back. Another question.
Yeah, sorry. Quick question on digital transformation. A lot of companies have initiated digital transformation initiatives. I mean, there are many consultants doing digital transformation. I want to understand, out of, say, 100 digital transformations that are happening every day in India, what percent would involve IoT?
Sure. Yeah, I can tell. See, digital transformation is moving to a mobile or a platform. To me, not more than 50 to 60% will be involving IoT, unless they're moving for a service kind of thing. Otherwise, many of the Ola and the others, they're moving into a digital platform to provide their services. They in future will start using IoT, but when they start, the digital transformation will start happening. To me, it's not more than 60% which will use sensors-based data, because majority of the companies will not be using sensor-based data to start with, but slowly they will be moving into it. And that's what I used to head the digital enterprise services business from Madras. Okay. So majority of the companies, when it's a bank, when it's a different kind of company, where there is not sensors being used, so the overall digital transformation used to involve IoT, it's 50 to 60% of the organization.
Okay, one of the last questions ever, please, sir.
In fact, I have come from Pune, born India, and we do a lot of work in the field of IT security. So we talk about transformation, IoT, Industry 4, even cloud mobility, we do a lot of work there. We operate in two markets, India and US. It's very easy for us to convince the US that security is a very important factor in we do all this. But it was very difficult here to talk about security. As you see, it doesn't matter. Security was the last point. Why it is so?
Well, it was not the last point, sir. We had several other points, but I wanted to open it for the house. Go ahead, please. Security is not a threat.
Security is actually, see, you can't start with security in India. So you have to understand the difference between US and India, right? US, when it comes to IT and IoT, is a very, very mature market already. They've reached a certain level of maturity. India is an evolving ecosystem. India is actually the fastest growing IoT market in the world. But it still contributes to 5% of the global IoT numbers, right? So India is a market which is still trying to understand the concept of IoT. And in India, rather than the Western world where IoT is used more for Alexa, open the door and switch on my light and switch off my light in the house, it's for basic human needs, right? So you can't start a conversation with IoT. When you're wanting to develop a market, if you can't say that security is a risk, then the whole kahani wahin pe khatam ho jayegi. So I think the whole concept is security. That's why we ended saying security is the most important aspect, and you need to take care of that. But if you start scaring people, that's not a way to develop a market, honestly.
So I would like to add to this. I feel that the security threat will come more in those markets where there is something to protect. So there is a greater fencing to protect in America, for example, because the level of evolution of the market, thousands of new nodes have opened, data points are there. So because of that, security is a little more greater concern there. Secondly, if you will see the attacks on through cyber hacking, etc., of, for example, St. Jude. St. Jude is a responsible company, in my view, making these pacemakers. And they infiltrated the pacemakers and not only depleted the batteries, but also administered shocks to unsuspecting patients. So all those things are also happening in little more evolved markets where these wearables have really, and other sectors also. Having said that, if you see, Department of Justice has made a very elementary recommendation there, that look for secure password practices and upgrade your firmware. So let me say that there is a lot of concern about security, but addressing of security there also is still in the nascency.
Yeah. So I just want to add two things. Okay. First, when I was talking about security, the first thing I felt is required is awareness. Okay. While we are growing, we are the fastest growing IoT market. The awareness about what will it happen is less. Second, we are a very, very cost sensitive market. The moment it becomes a 10 rupee more, we will try to buy something which is 10 rupee less, not thinking about how much more important it is to pay us 10 rupees for providing a better security. So the mindset needs to change, which again comes with the awareness. The second thing, or the last thing that I want to say, the California state in the United States has been the first state in the world to come out with cyber security law. You know when? Last week. Okay. So while we think about that here there's a Western world, they are very advanced and they have so many threats, the first state in the United States to come out with a cyber security law is California, and that too last week.
So the wail there is louder. Remedy is still not coming.
Correct.
So I'm sure the wail volume will go up here, and remedy will start. Any other point? Otherwise, we'll call it a day and we'll break for whatever Siddhartha's agenda.